I imagine by now many of you have seen the images we have of the Cybertruck's interior. You might have your own opinions and take on this, but I've got some thoughts here. There's some things that really stood out to me from these shots of the interior of the production version of the Tesla Cybertruck. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. It's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you to our Patreon supporters. Really appreciate you. If you'd like to support the channel, I'll put a link in the description to our Patreon page. The Tesla Cybertruck. We now have images of the interior. I'm sure you've all seen the exterior images. It's a little bit different to what we thought it would be in terms of the 3% reduction in size, but the tray is the same size. Well, the bed is the same size. It's bigger than all the competition, 6.5 foot versus around 5.5 for most of the competition. That's a big advantage, I think, that the Cybertruck has. It's one of the reasons I love it, and it's one of the reasons I hope that I will get one eventually. The interior, though, there's some pros and some cons. Now, for one, the interior is very different to the traditional interior you see in pickup trucks. I mean, let's be fair here. The modern pickup truck has enough buttons. It reminds me of a BlackBerry phone. The modern pickup truck, you have to admit, it's very similar to a BlackBerry phone. I've looked at many modern pickup trucks and I'm like looking at the interior and I'm thinking, what do all those buttons do? There's so many buttons. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to finish. I don't know. Have you ever had that thought? I mean, seriously, look at an F-150 and F-250 and you're looking at it thinking, what does that do? I mean, there's so many things that I can press here. The Tesla Cybertruck, for good or for bad, is the complete opposite to that. There's almost no buttons. There's no stalk. Now, before you start saying there's no stalk and therefore everyone will hate it, well, BMW cars, some of them don't have stalks either. Anyhow, the no stalk is an interesting decision. There's a very different steering wheel. I mean, it's basically a square-looking steering wheel, which I actually quite like the look of it. I think it looks cool. Whether or not it's practical, well, yeah, I'm not sure about that. Have to have a drive, I think, to really know how that thing feels. There are a lot of steering wheels now that look more like that in a lot of cars, to be fair. So if we're going to say we hate that sort of thing, then, well, we have to say we hate it in every other car that it's in as well, which I don't think anyone's doing yet. The interior of the car is incredibly minimalist. Clearly, you can see there's a big 17-inch screen. A couple of things that stand out are the dash. The dash, in my opinion, I quite like the look of the dash, but it is, well, massive. In fact, it's incredibly big. I mean, you could store stuff up there. You could store people up. You could probably put a whole person on that dash. It's so big. I'm not sure what I think about that. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think about the dash. Clearly, there's a huge amount of space between the windscreen and the dashboard. Massive. The other thing is those blind spots, those pillars at the front of the car you can see when you're looking at the front windscreen. They would possibly, obstruct your view a little bit. Possibly. So that's going to be interesting to see how that goes when people test the car. Now, obviously, Tesla have been testing it with those pillars there. They might have gotten used to them. Maybe it's something where you think at the start, oh, that's going to be a problem. Then you drive it and you're like, I didn't even notice. That's possible. I don't know. What are your thoughts though? What do you think on those pillars? Now, some people are saying they think it's covered in Alcantara. There's no facts behind whether or not that's true. It may or may not have Alcantara on there, so it looks like a suede look. I'm not too sure about that. I've got to say though, personally, my opinion is I really like the minimalist look. Now, I don't have the ability to test drive this, of course. None of us do, to work out whether or not the minimalist look, whether or not how well it works in the real world, what it's going to be like. But we do know it will have a new UI. We do know it will have hardware 4. We do know it will have 12 5-megapixel cameras. That's going to give us some pretty good ideas, pretty good coverage of those blind spots. I reckon it will. I don't know for sure, but I reckon having those 12 cameras is probably going to give you a pretty good 360-degree view of the car as well. I think reversing will be no issues, but I mean, every pickup truck will have issues reversing unless you have a really good quality cameras. That's one thing the Cybertruck will have. The ability when you're reversing to get a really good view of what you're looking at, because these new cameras in the bumper are going to give you a really high definition image. Meaning, I mean, for example, the old BMW X5 that I had, it was really hard to see where you're reversing, because even though it had a reversing camera, and in fact it even has a bird's eye view, the definition of the camera is quite a low definition, so you couldn't really trust it. You couldn't really go, oh yeah, I can see exactly what I can see there. I mean, I was actually always a bit concerned, so I almost never used that reverse view camera. And the bird's eye view, I almost never use them because the definition of those cameras was a very, very low definition. And so therefore I just wasn't confident that I was seeing everything correctly. I think that's a big advantage of having that big screen. A big 17-inch screen, you can really see what's going on with those extra cameras. Having the extra couple of cameras that the hardware 4 will have, having the higher definition. Overall, I see some pros, I see some cons. The simple design I really like. The dashboard does seem a bit big, and it does seem like the view is a little bit obscured in the front of the car because of those big sections on the A-pillar. The A-pillar sections there could potentially create some blind spots, or then again, maybe having that massive windscreen could actually be really good for seeing out. I'm not too sure because I haven't driven it, and until then, I don't really know, but I want to know what you guys think. What do you think of this minimalist look? Do you agree with me that some pickup trucks look like BlackBerry phones, like with all the millions of buttons in them? Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.